Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air from Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump returns to the White House, promising a golden age of America. The president immediately launching his agenda, vowing sweeping changes on immigration and the border, and promising action regarding hundreds of January 6th defendants. Tonight, the inauguration of President Donald Trump.
So help me God.
America and the world witnessing President Trump taking the oath of office for a second time. The cornerstone of democracy today, a peaceful transfer of power. Dangerously cold weather moving the inauguration indoors for the first time since Ronald Reagan in 1985. Extraordinary images unfolding throughout the day here. And then the welcome at the White House. The Bidens reaching out to the Trumps. Biden telling Trump, welcome home. President Trump delivering his inaugural address to the nation, saying he wants to be a peacemaker and unifier, and promising to completely and totally reverse the work of the Biden administration, with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris sitting right next to him. And after 5 decades in politics, President Biden tonight leaving Washington for the last time. The moving moment flying over Washington, the Capitol, and the White House one final time. President Trump wasting no time setting the tone for his next 4 years in office, his plans to sign at least 100 executive actions, declaring a national emergency at the southern border tonight. ABC News has learned he plans to issue sweeping pardons for prisoners convicted in the January 6th attack on the Capitol, what we've learned tonight. Meantime, in his final hours in office today, President Biden issuing last-minute pardons to Dr. Anthony Fauci, retired General Mark Milley, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, and members of the House committee who investigated January 6th. President Biden saying they did nothing wrong, but that he still wanted to protect them. Our team spread out tonight across the country for this historic night. Also on this Monday evening, the dangerous winter storm and brutal cold from the Rockies to the deep south and all the way up into the Northeast. Tonight, states of emergency in places, the major pileup on I-96 in Michigan. Wind chills below zero into the single digits. And on this day, Americans across the nation pause to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and what President Trump said today about his inauguration falling on this day.
From ABC News, this is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, reporting tonight from Washington.
And good evening tonight from Washington. We're glad you're with us here on an historic day in America, the inauguration of Donald Trump as the nation's 47th president. The peaceful transfer of power, we brought it to you live all day long. This day not like anything we've seen before. Trump, the 45th president, returning as the 47th president. We haven't seen this as a country since Grover Cleveland, in fact. The ceremony moved indoors because of the cold. The new president on track to take a record number of executive actions on day one. And in the final hours of his administration, the now former President Biden also issuing last-minute pardons. We have it all covered tonight. President Trump taking the oath of office for the second time in the Capitol Rotunda, the first time inside since Ronald Reagan's second term back in 1985. But it began with this moment right here, Donald and Melania Trump arriving at the White House, greeted by the Bidens, President Biden saying, welcome home to Donald Trump. A tradition for decades, but one that Trump did not honor 4 years ago for the Bidens when Joe Biden won. After having the tea inside, though Donald Trump doesn't drink tea, they did meet for the White House tea that is part of inaugural tradition. The two presidents leaving together. They shared a ride together to the Capitol. In Trump's inaugural address, President Trump promising a new golden age of America, promising to be a peacemaker and a unifier, but also harshly critical of the Biden administration, with Biden and Vice President Harris sitting just behind him. That final moment of the transfer of power, the new president escorting former President Biden and the former First Lady Jill Biden to a waiting helicopter, flying over the Capitol for the last time, ending a decades-long political career. And instead of the traditional parade through the streets of Washington, a rally just moments ago at the Capital One Arena. The night is young. President Trump and the First Lady will attend 3 inaugural balls tonight. We will be here for it all. A primetime special, 10 p.m. Eastern tonight. But we begin here with our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, tonight.
Tonight, America's historic and peaceful transfer of power on full display. Joe Biden greeting Donald Trump at the White House with 2 words, welcome home.
Welcome home.
Polite handshakes between the Bidens and the Trumps, and then the 4 entering for the traditional pre-inauguration tea. Over at the Capitol, the audience assembling, and in prime seats among the incoming cabinet secretaries, some of the nation's top tech CEOs. Amazon's Jeff Bezos, Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, Apple's Tim Cook, and of course Trump's close advisor, Elon Musk. Back at the White House, the Trumps and Bidens visiting for about 45 minutes before emerging for that ride to the Capitol. The First Ladies walking to their car. And then the presidents. As the motorcade rolled through the streets, former presidents filing into the rotunda. The Clintons, the Bushes, and Barack Obama walking alone, former First Lady Michelle Obama not attending. The rotunda packed as Trump made his entrance.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect of the United States, the Honorable Donald John Trump.
Please raise your right hand.
Vice President Vance sworn in, his wife Usha holding their young daughter.
Congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after.
And then it was Trump's turn, taking the oath for the second time.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend. The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
A handshake with former President Biden. Then President Trump launching into his inaugural address.
The golden age of America begins right now.
With Biden looking on, Trump pledging to bring back what he called a nation in decline.
My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over.
Vowing to usher in a, quote, revolution of common sense, starting with a sweeping series of executive actions.
I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
The president with this promise.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier.
And this vow.
Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. Something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again.
His tone defiant.
Many people thought it was impossible for me to stage such a historic political comeback. But as you see today, here I am. The American people have spoken.
After the president was finished, Carrie Underwood with a last-minute pivot to sing a cappella.
Oh, beautiful for Spain. spacious skies for amber waves of grain.
Trump famously skipped Joe Biden's inauguration, but Biden was determined to stick with tradition. And so today, the new president and first lady escorting the Bidens out of the Capitol to the waiting helicopter. Handshakes, the first ladies exchanging hugs, and then the Trumps waving goodbye as the Bidens flew off. But in the 11th hour of his presidency, Joe Biden with some unfinished business, issuing preemptive pardons for public officials who'd incurred Trump's wrath, including former top health advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley, and the members of the January 6th committee, including chairwoman former Representative Liz Cheney, writing these public servants have served our nation with honor and distinction and do not deserve to be the targets of unjustified and politically motivated prosecutions, and stressing the pardons should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that they engaged in any wrongdoing. Biden also issuing preemptive pardons to 5 members of his own family, including his brother and sister, saying my family has been subjected to unrelenting attacks and threats, motivated solely by a desire to hurt me. I have no reason to believe these attacks will end. Trump clearly angered by the last-minute pardons.
Why are we doing Milley? He was pardoned. What he said. Terrible what he said. Why are we helping some of the people?
As Trump spoke a long airing of grievances, Biden was heading for the plane and his farewell.
It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president.
With Washington in a deep freeze, the traditional parade scrapped, the president heading to a celebration at the Capital One Arena. A jubilant procession of marching bands. As in Washington, a new era begins.
Donald Trump, the 47th president of the United States. Our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, with us now. We saw Elon Musk had a front row seat in the rotunda today. He spoke to the crowd at the Capital One Arena, actually went there even before President Trump did. And tonight you've learned he's in the West Wing.
David, Elon Musk has already been spotted inside the West Wing tonight. He's been given what's essentially an all-access security pass, and sources tell us he is likely to get an office there in the West Wing as well.
In the West Wing as well. Something to watch here. Mary Bruce leading us off. Mary, thank you. President Trump wasting no time, meanwhile, on track to sign scores of executive actions on this day one of his administration, among them declaring a national emergency at the southern border, declaring an energy emergency, and reversing many of former President Biden's initiatives. Our senior political correspondent, Rachel Scott, tonight at the Capital One Arena.
Tonight, just hours after he was sworn in, President Trump getting right down to business, signing a record number of executive orders. At Capital One Arena, in front of a crowd of supporters, Trump putting into motion his day one actions.
I'm about to sign some very important executive orders of our new administration.
Signing orders on the economy, gender, and immigration, declaring that national emergency at the southern border, reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy, and designating cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before.
The president vowing to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
We are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Trump also declaring a national emergency on energy.
We will drill, baby, drill. America will be a manufacturing nation once again, and we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it.
Tonight, in front of thousands of supporters here at the Capital One Arena, President Donald Trump signed several executive actions, including withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord. The president making clear that many more are on the way, but even his allies on Capitol Hill acknowledge that he will need the help of Congress to get much of his agenda across the finish line, David.
All right. Rachel Scott live here in Washington as well. Rachel, thank you. Tonight, what we're now learning at this hour about another of President Trump's expected actions tonight, pardoning or commuting the sentences of hundreds convicted in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, now.
Hundreds of violent offenders went to prison for attacking police on January 6th, using everything from shields to flagpoles, even cattle prods. Granting full unconditional pardons for everyone convicted in connection with January 6th.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon. Yes. Full pardon.
And commuting the sentences of multiple people convicted of seditious conspiracy, including Stuart Rhodes, the founder of the Oath Keepers militia. And minutes after Trump signed that document, an attorney for Enrique Tarrio, former national chairman of the Proud Boys, who was also sentenced to 22 years in prison for seditious conspiracy, telling ABC News he is currently being processed for release. Trump promised multiple times to free the so-called January 6 defendants on the campaign trail, even saluting at a rally while playing a version of the national anthem sung by a choir made of January 6 prisoners. Now it appears he has made good on that promise. David, the prospect of potential violent offenders walking free and the potential risks to the prosecutors who convicted them and the judges who sentenced them has some current and former DOJ officials alarmed. David?
Pierre Thomas live at the Capitol tonight. Pierre, thanks so much. Let's get back to the team that's been with me all day long here on ABC. Quick lightning round here. Our chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl, what do you think President Trump has to do now in these early days of his administration?
Well, look, he set the bar extremely high. In his speech, he said that the golden age of America starts right now. He made specific promises like bringing prices down and much beyond that. So now he has to deliver. And David, we saw him do some executive actions. Getting stuff through Congress is going to be much, much more difficult given the narrow majority. He's got the majority, but it's oh so narrow.
Yeah, you mentioned the prices. Executive action on the border will definitely be coming.
Yep.
Bringing prices down might be the bigger challenge as we move ahead in the months to come. Martha Raddatz, you took note that the families of the hostages were there in the arena tonight, and many of them in recent days have given Donald Trump credit for getting this ceasefire across the finish line.
Absolutely. They expressed gratitude for what he did and his team did to get it across the finish line. Of course, Joe Biden's been working on it 15 months, but the hard part is ahead. This is not over. This is a temporary ceasefire, phase one, although Donald Trump has made very clear there will be hell to pay if all the hostages are not released. David?
I thank all of you. Steady and balanced all day long in a divided country. And we're going to have a special coming up tonight, a full wrap-up, including the evening's inaugural balls and events, and what these first 100 days, what to expect if you were for Trump or if you were hoping for a different outcome, what to expect in these early months of the Trump administration. A very special 2020 tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern. Our Powerhouse political team will be right back here at 10 p.m. When we come back here on World News Tonight, the dangerous winter storm from the Rockies to the Northeast tonight, also after being shut down in the U.S. for less than a day now, what President Trump is now saying tonight about the future of TikTok. And, of course, the nation also honoring the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. tonight. We're back in a moment. Tonight here, we're tracking a dangerous winter storm from the Rockies to the Northeast. Alabama and Georgia, in fact, declaring states of emergency tonight. Snow and ice causing a major pileup on I-96 near Grand Rapids, Michigan. Look at the images tonight. Several inches of snow and sleet expected from Texas to Georgia. When we come back on World News Tonight, what President Trump is now signaling about the future of TikTok here in the U.S. and the nation tonight, paying tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in a moment. Tonight, TikTok back up and running for its 170 million users after a brief shutdown. President Trump planning to sign an executive order delaying the nationwide ban of the Chinese-owned app for at least 90 days. The bipartisan law passed by Congress and upheld by the Supreme Court, citing national security concerns over Americans and their personal information. When we come back here tonight, the nation pays tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and what's happening later tonight right here on ABC. Before we go tonight here, the nation honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on what would have been his 96th birthday. In Nashville, young children marched in an MLK Day parade. In San Francisco, they carried signs to keep the dream alive. And President Trump paying tribute to Dr. King during his inaugural address, saying, quote, "In his honor, we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true." Thank you for watching here on ABC all day long. I'll see you for that primetime special, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here tonight, the balls and what to expect in these first 100 days. I'll see you then. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.